portion, it starts out talking about the impurity of the dead. Zois Chukas HaTorah. This is the statute of the Torah, the rule of the Torah. And it talks about a person who dies and the ritual impurity associated with the dead body. A person who touches the dead body, a person who is in close proximity to the dead body, under the same roof as the dead body, over the airspace of the dead body, like in a cemetery. In all those cases, the person becomes ritually impure. And in order for them to become ritually pure, they have to go through a 7-day process, which involves the sprinkling of the water that is mixed in with the ashes of the red heifer. The red heifer is, of course, a red cow, completely red, not even 2 black hairs. It's slaughtered opposite the Beis HaMikdash. The blood is sprinkled towards the Beis HaMikdash. It's burned on an altar. And the ashes, when added to spring water, are what is used to purify a person from the impurity of the dead. Person has to be sprinkled. One has to sprinkle on the person on the 3rd and on the 7th day of their impurity. And then they go to the mikveh and they are good to once again enter the holy temple, eat holy sacrifices or whatnot. So in connection with the concept of the impurity of the dead, the Talmud in Tractate Nida talks about 3 foolish questions that were asked by the Alexandrian sages of the rabbis. Here are the foolish questions. You all ready? Now, the Rebbe says, by the way, that if a foolish question is recorded in the Talmud, it's obviously not so foolish. Because if it was truly foolish, the Talmud wouldn't bother recording it. The fact that it's recorded means there's some wisdom there, maybe very deep wisdom there, but it also has some foolishness to it. And that's why the Talmud refers to it as foolish, because of an aspect of it which is foolish. But there's nevertheless something deep to learn from it and talk about. Okay, so here is question number 1. Sorry. Question number 1 is about the wife of Lot. Has anybody here ever seen the wife of Lot?
I saw a picture on a postcard.
Okay. So the wife of Lot, of course, we read in the Parsha of Vayera, was told by the angels when Lot was fleeing from Sodom, and the angels warned him not to look back. The wife of Lot looked back, and she turned into a pillar of salt. And now she's a nice sightseeing event in the area of Sodom. You can buy her for a nice price. You can buy a chunk of her and have a souvenir. So they asked, is the wife of Lot, does she give off ritual impurity? After all, she's still there. She's turned into salt, but she was a living being, and now she's not. So maybe if you touch her, obviously she's not a body anymore, she's a pillar of salt, maybe you should become ritually impure. And what did the sages answer, do you think? This is not a rhetorical question. What do you think the sages answered?
I don't think they said that you would be ritual, that you would be impure, but you had to do something to get clean. I don't think they would go that far.
You think they wouldn't be ritually impure, or they would be? If they touched the wife of Lot, who is now a pillar of salt.
I say that not.
Not.
It's the thing is, it's not the body. It's only something that's left. It's like touching the ground where somebody is buried, touching the sand. That doesn't make you impure.
That is correct. That is what the Talmud says. The Talmud says a dead body makes you tameh, but not a pillar of salt. So that's question and answer number one. Question and answer number two is about the daughter of the Shunamis. The Shunamis was a woman from Shunem who was older and had never had children, and she hosted Elijah the prophet in her home. And she treated him very nicely together with his assistant. And when he asked her what she needs, if he can bless her with something, she said, "No, I don't need anything. I'm good. I'm among my people." Elisha's assistant said, "Well, she hasn't had any children and her husband is old. So basically, if not now, when?" And Elisha blessed her with a child. And she said, "Don't disappoint me." Meaning to say, don't give me a child that's going to be a disappointment. If you're promising me a child, it should be a child that brings me joy. And she had a child at a very advanced age. And then the child was in the field once with his father, helping him. And he said, "Roshi, Roshi, my head, my head." He had some kind of issue with his head. We don't know what it was, an aneurysm. I don't know what. And the man said to the servants, "Bring him to his mother." They brought him to his mother, and he died in her lap. So she went up to the room of the prophet, Elisha. She put him on his bed, and she took a camel, quickly saddled it up with her servant's help, and ran off to see the prophet. Her husband said, "Where are you going? It's not a special day." She said, "No, I got to go." And she came to him and she said, "Didn't I tell you, don't disappoint me?" And he said, "What's going on? Hashem didn't tell me." And she told him. And at first he sent his assistant back with a stick, said, "Put the stick on him and he'll get better." Didn't work. The assistant wasn't such a tzaddik. He couldn't be the one to perform the miracle. Elisha himself went up to the room, closed the door, and he put himself on top of the child and he blew into the child's mouth 7 times. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And lo and behold, the child came back to life. And he said, give him to his mother. And that's the story with the Ben HaShunamis, the son of the Shunamis. So the sages of Alexandria wanted to know, does the son of the Shunamis make a person tameh? After all, he was dead. He was a dead human being. Does he make a person tameh if they touch him? What do you all think?
It was a natural thing. He had some type of a brain aneurysm. I don't think, I don't think he was, I don't think it was unclean, no.
So according to our sages, he actually died and came back to life. It wasn't just like a state of unconsciousness and whatever, but nevertheless, you are correct. The Gemara says the sages answered the sages of Alexandria, and they said, a dead body makes you tameh, not a live body. He's not dead. So what if he used to be dead? He's not dead now, and therefore he does not make you tameh. And by the way, the Medrash says about this story and about this response the following interesting conundrum. Mitam och loitim uni, va'ata timesani. What made you impure did not make you impure, yet you made me impure. Listen to this. The things that were in the room with this young man when he was dead, they become ritually impure. Now, when he himself came back to life, he is not ritually impure. When he touches those items, because they have ritual impurity, they make him ritually impure on a lesser level, because when it comes to ritual impurity, it kind of descends, gets less and less severe, but they still make him ritually impure. So he says to them, what made you tameh, which is me, when I was dead, did not make me tameh, because when I came back to life, I lost that ritual impurity. Yet you do make me ritually impure. So that's like a halachic, I don't know what the word for it is, but it's like a conundrum kind of thing, like what seems like a contradiction, like an
Slogan.
impossibility. What's the word?
Slogan.
Slogan? What does that mean?
Slogan.
What is that?
Slogan.
No, it's not. It's more than a slogan. It's like an impossible thing. It's like something that doesn't make sense, yet it's true. Okay, so finally, question number 3, my friends. Listen carefully because Mashiach's going to come soon and we're going to have to know the answer. The question is, when the dead come back to life, do they need to be sprinkled on in order to become ritually pure or not? They were dead bodies, some of them for thousands of years. They come back to life. Are they tameh? To the extent that they have to have this process of the water being sprinkled on them, or not? That was the question. All right, let's see if the class can figure out the answer to that question.
According to the story that you just told, no.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says
They were tameh when they died?
Well, they were dead bodies. They were dead.
Were they tameh when they were still alive before they died?
No. No reason to say that they were. Even if they were, that wasn't the question. The question is they were tameh when they were dead, and now they came back to life.
I would say no.
So the Gemara says two answers. One is as follows. Let me get it right because I remember the second one, but I don't remember the first one exactly. So the first answer was Lichesheyichyu, when they come back, Nechkam lahen, will become wise with them. Meaning to say, we'll have to figure out when they get back. I can't really tell you now, but when they get back, we'll figure it out. That was answer number one. Answer number two was when Moshe Rabbeinu comes back with them, which seems to be saying it's such a hard question that we can't answer it. Even they can't answer it necessarily. But Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come back with them. He's the wisest of all men. He'll be able to answer this question. Okay, now we have a lot of questions on this whole story, on all of these stories. But let's start with what we just finished with. Like David said, the answer to the second question should have answered the third question as well. If the son of the Shunamis was not Tameh, because he was alive, well, then the people who come back to life after being dead should also not be Tameh because they're also alive. Also, what's this unusual answer when they come, will become wise with them? Like, you don't know the answer, say, I don't know the answer. What's it? You're gonna come wise with them. You'll ask Hashem. Hashem will answer. Eliyahu Navi will answer. What does it mean? We'll become wise with them. And finally, what does it have to do with Moshe Rabbeinu? The standard statement in the Talmud, when the Talmud doesn't know, is teku. Teku means literally let it stand, let the question stand. It's an unresolved question. But it also stands for Tishbi, Yetaretz Kushus V'Abayis, which means that Elijah the prophet will answer the difficult questions. So what do you need Moshe Rabbeinu to answer the question? I mean, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe. He's probably wiser than Eliyahu. He is wiser than Eliyahu. He knows the Torah better. He was the one who gave us the Torah. That's true, but why do you have to mention him? And why do you have to mention that he's going to come with them? Let it just say, we'll ask Moshe. We'll ask Moshe then. Moshe Yetaretz Kushas V'Abayis. Meku. Moshe Yetaretz Kushas V'Abayis. What does it mean when Moshe and Aaron comes with them? Okay, my friends.
The thing is, Moshe, he spent more time in the presence of Hashem than anyone else.
That's true. That's true. He's definitely a great resource, and he'll be around then. But the expression when he comes with them is unusual. It could say, we'll ask Moshe. Moshe will answer. Moshe will explain. Here it says, when Moshe comes with them. What's the difference if he comes with them? And if he comes separate? What if he comes separate? They come one way, he comes another way. They come one day, he comes the next day. I mean, what does it mean with them? Okay, my friends, so let's go over these questions and answers and see the wisdom in the questions, but nevertheless, why it's still considered foolish. So the first question was about the wife of Lot. The wife of Lot is not a dead body. She's salt. So what was the wisdom in their question? So the Rebbe explains that there are different kinds of miracles. Sometimes a miracle actually changes the nature of the item with which the miracle was done. For example, Moshe Rabbeinu's hand got leprosy when he questioned the Jewish people and said maybe they're not going to believe that Hashem is going to take them out. So Hashem said, look, put your hand in your bosom. He took it out. It had leprosy. And that was a sign to the Jews that it was true. But nevertheless, it was also a punishment to Moshe that he spoke against the Jews. And then Hashem said, put your hand in your bosom again, and it'll turn back to natural state. In order for it to turn back to its natural state, another miracle had to occur. Because after the first miracle occurred, it was actually leprosy. He got leprosy. To take it away, another miracle had to happen. Unlike, for example, the blood, where it says the blood for the first makkah, it was blood, but yet if a Jew drank from the same cup, it was water. Because what it means is that it wasn't really blood. For the purpose of the Egyptians, it acted like blood. Take, for example, the splitting of the sea. The sea split, it was a miracle, but there was a wind blowing the whole night, meaning to say Hashem was making it split. When it was time for the sea to go back onto the Egyptians, that wasn't a miracle. That was simply Hashem stopping the earlier miracle. Of course, he stopped it at the exact moment that the last Jew left the seabed while the Egyptians were all in it. So the timing of it was certainly miraculous. But the actual collapse of the splitting of the sea was simply natural. So therefore, the question can be asked, the wife of Lot, the fact that she is salt, is that like, is she really salt? Or is she really a dead body that just has all the characteristics of salt? But if Hashem at any moment decides that that miracle should cease to be, maybe she'll just turn right back into herself. If that's the case, you really shouldn't take a souvenir from her. And you certainly shouldn't salt your chicken soup with it because, what if Mashiach comes and all of a sudden your chicken soup goes back to being a bit of her? You wouldn't want that to happen. So that was really their question, and it's not so off the mark. I mean, it's a question, but nevertheless, despite the fact that there's wisdom to it, the sages still considered it foolish, because in the end of the day, it is salt. Whether it's because of a miracle, because it became salt, at this point, it's salt. She's not a human being. She's not a dead body, and therefore there is no ritual impurity. Which, by the way, is not just about salt. It's about any dead body that changes completely. For example, God forbid if a person is burnt in a fire, to the extent that there's basically just ashes, that form is not going to make somebody ritually impure because it's not a body anymore. Okay, so that's as far as issue number one. Issue number two, where they asked about the son of the Shunamis woman. Why was there wisdom in their question? And why, nevertheless, is the question considered foolish? So listen carefully to the concept. When Elisha resuscitated the child and blew into his mouth, according to our sages, the energy that gave life to this child was not his original neshama. Rather, it was, so to speak, a part of Elisha's neshama. Elisha imparted some of his own spirit into the child. And this, by the way, is different than Elijah the prophet. Elijah the prophet also brought a child back to life. And here we'll go back to the prophets to teach you another lesson from the book of Kings, Kings 1. When there was a famine in the land, and Elijah ran away because the king and queen Achav and Hazael wanted to kill him for causing that famine by decreeing that there should be a famine. And he ran away, and he had no food. At that point, he was still a human being. Nowadays, he's an angel. I don't think he has to eat. But at that point, he was a human being. He needed to eat. So he came to the city of, forget which city. And there was a woman called Sarfatis, or she was from Sarfas, and that's why she was called that. And she took notice of him. She was a widow with a child at home, an orphan, obviously. And Elisha said to her, Eliyahu said to her, maybe you can feed me. And she said, I really have nothing in my house. All I have is a bit of flour and a bit of oil, and I'm going to use it to make a little cookie for me and my son, and we'll eat it, and then we'll die. Because we have no food after that, and there's a famine. Eliyahu said, no problem. You make that cookie, but you make it for me. And after that, your jug of oil and your jar of flour will not finish. And you'll be able to use it until the famine is over. And that's actually what happened. They made him a cookie, and meanwhile, the jug and the can or whatever it is became miraculous, and they never finished as long as the famine was on the land. So there it doesn't say, oh, sorry, I didn't finish the story. And then later on, once again, this child got sick, this happened before the story with Elisha. Elijah was the teacher, Elisha was the student. And this child got sick, and Eliyahu also blew into him, and he came back to life. That story happened before the story of the Shunamis with Elisha, because Eliyahu was, like I said earlier, he was the teacher. So the men of Alexandria were obviously learned people. Why did they ask about the Shunamis child and not about the Sarfatis child? And the Rebbe explains that the Sarfatis child got his own soul back. And therefore, it was obvious to them that whatever impurity came to the body through the loss of that soul, that impurity departed as soon as the soul came back, because it was basically basically reversed. His actions were, his death was reversed. So they didn't have a question about that. They had a question about the Shunamis, the son of the Shunamis, who actually lost his soul, never got it back, got back a new soul, so to speak, a portion of Elisha's soul. And therefore, they had a question. Maybe the fact that his soul departed makes him ritually impure. The fact that he got a different soul back, okay, that's nice, but it doesn't fix the problem that he had before. So therefore, maybe that impurity does not depart because it's not undone. That was their question. And the answer was given, no, it doesn't make a difference. His soul, another soul, he's a living human being, and a living human being cannot have ritual impurity of the dead. Those two things are conflicting. You're either dead or alive. You can't be both. A dead body has ritual impurity from the dead. A live body, whether the same soul or a different soul, does not have it. Okay, now, if that's the case, we have to understand, why is there a question about the dead that are going to get up in the Messianic era when they should be the same as the son of the Shunamis? They're alive. They're going to be alive, I should say. And that's it. A live body does not have ritual impurity. Okay, my friends, so listen to this. The question about the future dead coming to life was not if they should have ritual impurity of the dead like a dead body. No, they're not dead. They're alive, like the son of the Shunamis. The question is, should they have ritual impurity like somebody who touched a dead body. Until they came back to life, they were dead bodies. The moment they came back to life, they went from being dead to being alive. Well, guess what? At that moment, they touched themselves. They touched themselves. A second ago, they were dead. Now they're alive. Their live being became from a dead being. That means their flesh was touching itself. And therefore, they should still have ritual impurity. And the Rebbe brings a parallel to that from a similar case in the Talmud, where a bed gets broken. At first, it had a higher level ritual impurity, but then it gets broken and it's no longer fit to be used as a bed, but it can be used in a secondary manner. So at the time that it got broken, it was touching itself when it had a higher level impurity. So a lower level impurity carries over to itself because it was touching itself. So it's as if it touched itself from a higher level to a lower level impurity. And that's the question. That's why they asked, are they going to need the sprinkling of the third and the seventh? Now that you don't do to a dead body, that you do to a live person who touches a dead body. And the answer was, when they come back, we will get wise with them. Okay, listen carefully. What does it mean we'll get wise with them? What it means is when they come back, we will figure out how they came back. Did they come back from their old selves? Was it the actual body that was rebuilt into a live body? In which case we can say that they touched themselves. Or did they decompose so completely that there was nothing left of them anymore? But nevertheless, Hashem can do anything. And Hashem can recreate them out of nothing, actual nothingness. Hashem can create something out of nothing. Or he could just take dirt, earth, mix it with water like he did for the first man, and make them identical to the people they were before, but not from the actual body. And that was the answer. When they come back, we'll get wise. We'll understand then how it happened. And based on that, we'll be able to answer that question. Did they touch themselves because there was something left of themselves? Or was there nothing left of themselves and therefore there's no ritual impurity? This also explains what it means when Moshe Rabbeinu will come with them. Okay, now you have to listen carefully to this because it relates to another part of the parsha. In the parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock. Hashem punishes him. Wasn't supposed to hit the rock. Or whatever he was supposed to do. He did something wrong. Hashem says he's going to die in the desert. And the Medrash gives the following example for this. Why did Moshe have to die in the desert? He barely did anything wrong. He hit the rock, could have spoken to the rock, big deal. The Medrash says it's like a shepherd who was given the king's sheep to guard. And he lost them. And now he wants to go back into the palace. The king says, listen here, if I let you back into the palace without the sheep, it's going to look like you kept the sheep for yourself, and now you're still accepted back into the palace. When you come back with the sheep, then I'll let you in. So if Moshe Rabbeinu comes back without his people, then it looks like he lost his people. Hashem says, you're not coming into the land because your people, your generation died in the desert. You wait there with them. When Mashiach comes, they'll be resurrected. You'll come back with them. Because the shepherd doesn't leave his sheep. You have to stay there with them and come back in the future time with Mashiach. So here's the answer. When Moshe Rabbeinu comes back with them, what does it mean with them? Listen carefully. If they are the same bodies as before, and he comes back with them, then it makes sense that there is ritual impurity because they are the same. They came back. It's actually them. And therefore, when he comes back, it's like he's coming back with his sheep. and therefore there should be ritual impurity from touching themselves, so to speak. If Moshe Rabbeinu comes back, but he's not with them, what does it mean? He comes back and they come back, but they're separate. Why are they separate? Because they're not the same people. Hashem created them out of nothing. So Moshe Rabbeinu is not really with them. They're like different. So then there would be no ritual impurity because they didn't touch themselves. They came out of nothing. But if Moshe Rabbeinu comes with them, that means that it's the same bodies that were rebuilt into being alive. Well, then, even though they're not dead and they have no high level ritual impurity, they still did touch themselves. So there should be the lower level ritual impurity. All right, that was pretty intense. That was a real Talmudic lecture. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And when Moshe Rabbeinu comes back, we'll be able to ask him. All right?
Thank you, Rabbi.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Rabbi. Very interesting lesson.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rabbi. Bye all.
Thank you. My pleasure. Have a good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Thank you. All the best.
Good Shabbos. Thank you.
Shabbos. My pleasure.